Welcome to the Fill Your Cups podcast. We're your hosts,
Morgan
and Bailey.
Today, we are talking about something I feel like is kind of controversial, to be honest. But it's the idea, if you've ever heard the old saying that, you are who you surround yourself with, or tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are, kind of idea. That's what we'll be talking about today, because it really is true. The people that you surround yourself with, you do take on a lot of their tendencies, you take on a lot of their habits, and you just kind of become almost like an average of the maybe top 5 people that you are around regularly. So sometimes that's really good because you're striving toward the same things and you want similar lives, and that's really good. But sometimes it can hold us back. And in this episode, I don't want it to sound like we're saying cut these friends out of your life or that you don't take ownership for your decisions and where you're going in life, because ultimately it's up to you. Your friends are maybe contributing to a whole picture of you not getting where you maybe want to go to, but really you have total agency over your life and you make your decisions. And so if you're not getting toward a goal or something that you want in your life, that is not your friend's fault.
Right.
You don't get to blame them. But we are going to be talking about how your current friendships may not be supporting you in your endeavors, and how we can start building friendships that maybe do more so.
Yeah.
And of course our goals and our ambitions change as we move through life. So there may be seasons for certain friends and seasons for others.
Yeah.
But we just want to talk a little bit about this idea that our friendships maybe are not currently supporting what we want. And how we can start building some that do.
Yeah. Whenever you first brought this episode idea to me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be juicy. I was like, that's a juicy topic. So I am really excited, kind of dive into that. And I feel like it's even going to help me a lot with my own relationships, of looking at them from kind of an outside perspective, because once you're in your relationships, it's hard to see anything. So I'm really excited for that. Before we do dive into the juice of the episode, I have to ask, what is filling your cup?
Oh, I just have water today.
God dang.
I know.
We need someone like a water company to sponsor us, like Liquid Death, and then we can just
I know. Yeah, I just have water because of my aligner things, but I did recently discover, which maybe a dentist will come at me or something, or orthodontist or something, but I did recently discover that it's not as bad if you drink other drinks through a straw. So I have been doing that occasionally on the weekends when I want something more fun. Obviously not something that stains your teeth. I'm not drinking wine through a straw or something like that.
Red wine.
Right. But yeah, just water today.
I love it. Iced?
No.
Okay, there you go.
What about you?
I am also drinking water, but I do have a good old energy packet in there because I was feeling like I was going to need a little bit of a pick-me-up today.
What are these energy packets?
Dude, these energy packets, I freaking love them. It's so funny. I actually have it right here.
Yeah, let me see.
They're literally, it's great value, and it's energy, and it's just got caffeine in it.
120 milligrams. Sugar-free. That's good. Watermelon limeade today.
It is so good. It probably has
calories.
So much bad stuff in there, but...
Oh, I have no idea. I do see it has aspartame, but oh well.
What doesn't? Just kidding. No, but I love these energy packets. I will pretty much drink them anytime I'm feeling like I need a pick-me-up. And yeah.
Nice.
So that's what I have today.
Fun.
Yes.
We have a shout out, don't we?
We do. One of our book club gals. Before I get into the shout out, I want to remind people that we do bonus book club episodes monthly. Because Morgan and I are in a actual book club, and it's just with all of our friends, and we decided that whenever we wanted to start the podcast, we're like, we should do this so that way people who aren't in their own book clubs can join our little virtual book club, basically.
Yeah.
And so every month we'll do our book club, and then Morgan and I will kind of record our thoughts on the book. Now, you should absolutely still listen to those episodes. They're fun. They're pretty much just like a gab session with me and Morgan, I feel like. We're just over here yapping. And there's obviously spoilers. You do not have to read the book. I think you should. It's a great habit to keep up with. But all that being said, that with this book, one of our friends and one of our book club girls, Shelby, she was listening to the episode and was like texting us in our group chat and was like, oh my God, like this is hilarious. Or like, I have to know who you guys are thinking of, or just things like that. And so I loved knowing, and I think it was like the same day that we put out the book club episode.
It was,
so I was like, that's so fun that Shelby's listening to that, and she already went to book club. Like, she already had all the thoughts on it, and I loved that. I just felt that was so supportive, and we're very grateful for you, Shelby, and we love you.
Yeah, I love Shelby.
Me too.
I also think it's so fun because we have the book club episodes, and then of course we have our How to Inhabit episodes and Let's Get Deep episodes, and we have our
Bit of fun
episodes, and probably people are drawn to different ones. You
Yeah.
know? And so for our book club girlies, maybe they only really like our book club ones, or or even people, so it just you never know, but we really
I know we basically have like a 4-in-1.
yeah so we appreciate y'all listening to those, and it's super fun. I do think at some point I referenced book club when I made the outline for this. I was thinking if you have a book goal to read a bunch of books, or, one book a month or something like that, it's probably going to be a lot less of a priority if you don't have any other people in your life that want to read.
It's going to be so much harder.
Exactly. Yeah. So we love book club. We love Shelby.
Yes.
But now we're going to dive right into our episode.
Let's get it.
So I kind of came up with this topic, and I really like it because you had a similar idea regarding friendships.
Yeah.
And so next week we'll be talking a little bit more about kind of just ways that you can make adult friendships, because it's so hard. But in this episode specifically, we're going to be talking more about the friendships that you currently have and if they're supporting you. And part of what brought this to my mind was when we did my morning routine episode, you asked me something about okay, and what kind of accountability do you have for specifically the physical activity that I love in my morning routine?
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about it, I was like, for a few years, the Wellness 360 group that I was a part of was really thriving, really just energetic. There were a lot of people in there, and we haven't been active in that group for a while now, probably 6, maybe 9 months.
Really?
Yeah. And so I still keep my physical activity and whatnot, and I still do my workouts every morning and that sort of thing. But I have noticed I've kind of backslid a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
In some things. Yeah, I mean, specifically, a little bit of, weight and, bloat and nutrition. And even though I'm not trying to put myself down, because I do think I prioritize good health and nutrition and things like that pretty well. But I just have noticed in the last probably 6 to 9 months that I haven't stuck to maybe as much of the habits that I had before, or it's just really small things. And you know how small things you can change, and it doesn't seem like you're changing that much.
Yeah.
But it was when you were talking about going to bed, you go to bed 15 minutes later, but then you go to bed 15 minutes later. And after a while, it's you're going to bed 2 or 3 hours later.
Yeah.
And so
it's the rut.
Yeah. And so that's how I've kind of been feeling when it comes to health stuff. And I was thinking about it and your question about the accountability. And I was like, I do share, in the mornings, I still have a little sweaty selfie that I share basically just with myself, honestly.
Aww.
But our sister, Julia and Jordan, they're both in there too, and Mom.
Aww.
And so I share it just in the little platform that we have.
Yeah.
But there's not as much back and forth, and there's just, I don't know, it's just not quite the same energy. And I was just realizing, if I were really curious about a nutritional thing or something like that, I don't have that many people in my life besides the podcast that I listen to or Google that I could go to and be like, hey, do you use creatine or something like that? Just something really niche, wellness, random nutrition type of thing. Not that I think that those things make or break you or anything.
Oh, but no, just whenever you're curious about things, there's no one to really go to, kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, very, very long-winded way of saying that this is kind of what brought it to my forefront of my idea, or of my head.
Yeah.
And I realized I think that you could apply it to so many other goals that you have in your life.
Yeah.
Even if yeah, just I think like if you're striving towards something in your career, if you're striving toward, you know, you want to go back to school, or you want to work on your health, or you want to work on reading more books, or you know, it could be a hobby goal, it could be a career goal, it could be a financial goal, whatever it is. I just like that's kind of what made me think of it was personally in my health, I would say, recently. And I was just like, I feel like we could do an episode on how maybe you just, if you don't have like a bubble, and I have friends that are healthy.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that, but I just realized like I don't have that same support where I'm interacting on a daily basis with people about these topics.
Yeah. No,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you feel like you want to start that back up, or?
I don't know if it has to be the same way, but I do think I didn't tell you this, but I started a like online yoga course.
Oh, fun.
And there's also like a Facebook group that supports it. And I would really love to connect with some people in the KC area that are like-minded, specifically in that kind of like atmosphere or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I don't think I necessarily need to start it in the same way. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah.
But I think I just want to have more interaction daily with people in my life that
like align with what you're wanting to do.
That are going that same direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whenever like this episode idea was brought up, I was kind of like, well, first of all, like I said, I was like, damn, this is going to be a juicy topic, because it's almost, I think we're going to title it something like, are your friends holding you back kind of thing?
Yeah. And all our friends listen to
right. Like, sorry guys. No, but I think that that's such a good thing to talk about. And like you said, like life paths are always changing and goals are changing and shifting, and you're always kind of like getting more into what you want and who you think that you're like want to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
But whenever you like first brought this up, I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to have that much to contribute to it. I loved the episode idea. I was just like, I don't know how much personally, because I have a pretty small circle just because I'm not as like quality time based kind of a person. And so for me, if I don't talk to someone for like 4 months and then I see them again, it's totally fine for me. I'm like, still excited. But anyway, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I don't know like how much I'm going to have to contribute. But then I was reading through our outline, and it was one of the facts that you had on here, and it says that for the salary. So if you were to think of your friends as not think of them as a salary, but think of your friends, if you were going to make like a group of 5 people, a circle of 5 that you were to think of. And then if you were to list what their actual salaries are, you are probably making, as far as salary goes, you are probably making an average of what your group is making. And I thought that was crazy, because at first it's like a hard thing to wrap your mind around, I think. But whenever I was reading that, I was like, no, like there's no way. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, wait, yeah. Because I was thinking about my 5 closest people, like you're in it, obviously Mason, like Sophia. And I was like, that's wild, actually. Because like we all make such different ranges, but then I definitely make an average of like what the group is.
Yeah.
And I thought that was crazy. And I was like, wow, it like really does. You really do align, or like your life really does align with who you got with you.
Right.
And I don't know. I thought that was a really, just crazy thing. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's a reason that like cost of living is different in different states too. You know what I mean? And so, and salaries are different, but averages come to be the same. But I thought that was really interesting. I can't remember what website I found that on, or what this citation was, but the exercise was writing down the 5 closest people. And when it says closest, it's not like physically closest, but the people that you interact with the most, the people that if you have a problem, you're going to them for help, the people that you want advice from, the people that you want to see you in a good light. People that you care about a lot, their opinions, and more than likely your salary is going to be about the average of theirs. Now, salary is not everything, but you can after this, reading about this exercise, I was like, you could apply this to probably anything. Like if you applied it to, I'm just going with books because it's been the easy one to say, but if you, the more that your friends care about something, the more likely you are to care about it as well. You know, and so let's say with books, if you're in a book club and you have friends who are talking about books daily and that sort of thing, you're much more likely to, let's say, hit a goal of reading a book a month than you are if nobody in your life is reading. Everybody in your life is talking about The Bachelorette, let's say, instead. I'm not saying one is worse than the other. I've done both regularly.
But you're more likely to watch Bachelorette than to read a book.
Yeah, exactly. Way more likely. And it just is a matter of where you're putting your time and attention and energy.
Yeah. I think it could also, like, it's same with, you likely have similar family values. You likely have similar spending habits. You likely have similar, like, music tastes, like, things like that. Yeah. It's just...
What do Sundays look like? Are they football Sundays? Are they, you know what I mean? And again, you have agency, you have ownership over your own life, so you can decide what you're doing with your time. But just naturally, if all of your friends are using this brand new skincare line and talking about it every single day, you're probably gonna buy it at some point. Like, just totally honestly, like, that's why trends become trends. But it has a lot to do with just how you're interacting on a daily basis with different information.
No, absolutely.
I don't know if you saw the other stat. It always scares me. And I think like health and weight and that sort of thing can become really taboo because we're not body shaming or anything like that. Like, we don't want to be doing that. But obesity, especially in America, is a huge problem. And I've heard this on a lot of the health podcasts that I've listened to, that research shows that a person's chance of becoming obese increases by 57% if a close friend is obese, 40% if a sibling's obese, and 37% if a spouse is obese. And I think that stat changes, but ultimately the idea is, if other people around you are regularly not eating well or not exercising or whatever, like, you're not going to be nearly as motivated as well. Because one, you're not having those conversations. If you think about it, if these are the people that you're regularly spending free time with, like say that you're going out to a restaurant regularly with these people, you're going on dates with these people, or you're, whatever. And I'm a perpetuator of this as well. Like, if I am going out somewhere and I don't know, I'm still influencing other people too. So when you think about, like, okay, does someone do the 5 closest people to me that I'm most likely gonna randomly go on a coffee date with, or go on a lunch date with, or something like that, or just spend a Saturday afternoon with or something, do those people care about health or weight or, like, whatever the thing is for you, Because if they don't, like, more than likely, and it's the same thing, I thought about this with saving money, too. Because, like, if you and all of your friends are in I think you said that you and Mason have been having no spend days, right? Or something like that? You said something about no spend days, and I've never heard that before.
Really? Yeah. I was... Since we're about to move, and since Mason was, like, in South Korea and everything like that, we had a couple of, like, where we tried to have no spend days, but it wasn't something we were, like, adding into our routine. We were just like, let's not spend anything today. Like, let's not get any type of fast food. Let's not, I don't know.
Coffee.
Yeah, let's not go to the store just for bananas, like, something like that. So we literally
stop at Quick Trip.
Yeah, so we would just make it a no spend day, but it wasn't anything we, like, added into our routine. Just something that we did do a couple times though.
Yeah, but I think even just, like, talking about that with people, when you start talking about it with your friends, if your friends are also having no spend days, or your friends are really focusing on saving money, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to save money. Yeah. Because they're not going to invite you to do things that are pricey.
For sure. It's a whole thing about accountability that we talk about all the time, of, like, it's going to be so much easier in your life once you get an accountability partner, and once there's someone who's, like, almost doing it with you kind of thing. Because I was even thinking about, like, a real life example would be, like, drinking, for example, that when I am with our family and, like, our, like, Tozak family, I am way more likely to drink. If we were going to go to, like, if we were going to go to the fun farm fest thing with our family, I'm definitely getting wines. I'm definitely like getting a beer kind of thing. But then whenever I go with Mason's family, who don't really drink that much, I'm not getting any type of alcohol kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a perfect example of who you surround yourself with and what you're more likely to do based on like who's influencing you in that group.
Definitely.
So I think it's important to think about who you have with you and are they matching up with what you're wanting to do and who you're wanting to be and what life you're wanting to live.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. So I think like kind of getting into the nitty gritty, I guess, of like what we can do to assess like is this us, you know? I kind of had like a couple things, but because how do you like, I don't know, for me, I'm like, how do I even know if this is affecting me? Because you don't really think about it. You hang out with these people on a daily basis, or you talk to people on a daily basis. You talk about the same things. Oh, Taylor Swift is a great example. That's a current example. Like, if all of your friends are talking about Taylor Swift and whatnot, like, I think that this is a great example because I've listened to Taylor Swift. You and I have listened to Taylor Swift for so long. And
so long, guys.
And so many people have. Like, I remember us in your bedroom.
Like down in the basement?
Yes. No, actually what I remember, oh my God. When was that? I remember Chloe Love's bedroom and it was like empty, I think.
Oh my gosh.
And we had the Taylor Swift debut album, the first one.
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
And we had it on like a CD player and we loved listening to it in that room because it like echoed off of the walls.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because they were painting and stuff. And
getting ready for baby.
Yes. And did she get new carpet or something? I'm not sure. But no,
she totally did because we got a nail polish fight. Remember on that carpet?
Oh yeah.
We had a nail polish fight, throw nail polish at each other.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember this so long ago, but then when the world shut down and then she came back with the Eras tour, it felt like all of a sudden people were, I'm not mad about it, but all of a sudden people were listening to her that like had not been obsessed with her for that long. And it's kind of become this crazy frenzy thing. Like people are going to her concerts that I was like
I didn't even know you liked her.
Yeah. I mean, Mason's a good example. Like for a while, like when Mason was listening to Midnights when that came out, he and I were talking about that more than you and I were talking about.
Yeah.
But he probably couldn't have told you one of her like original songs.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it
reminds me of like Julia going to the Eras movie with us, and like she was never a huge Taylor Swift fan, but she knew that we were.
Yes.
And so she's like, I want to hang out with my sisters. I want to go see it. And and now she really likes Taylor Swift.
And this thing that is really, really big with the people around you that you surround yourself with is something that you are now kind of a part of.
Yeah.
So anyway, tangent. But sometimes like you just get swept up and you don't even realize that it's happening. And and like I said, it could be a good thing. I think Taylor Swift's a good thing. It could
also be a really bad thing.
Yeah,
all your friends are doing drugs. You're probably going to do some drugs.
I know. Yeah. Before we started this episode, I was like, yeah, I mean, if you are trying not to be an alcoholic and you're constantly around other alcoholics, like you probably will be one.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're gonna have the best relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
And again, not saying any one thing is good or bad, but deciding what it is that you want. So I would say first step in this like kind of evaluation process is that I would say is just like really think about, okay, what is like top priority for you right now? Maybe even top 3, but a really like top focus. Like for instance, I think health is the thing that I'm always leaning toward.
I think that's your top priority. Yeah. I also want to say that health is your top priority, not in a vain aspect in any way. It's more of like you literally want to make sure you can walk when you're older. And like, like you have, I feel like, I don't think any of our listeners actually will feel like this, but I feel like health can be so taboo to talk about often, and we do talk about it often, but it's not in the way where you're ever like, oh, I want to make sure I stay at this number on the scale, or like I have to not eat carbs because I'm going to like gain weight. It's more of like it's bad for my heart, or like it's like I won't be able to sleep. I don't know, just saying that because I want you to have.
Well, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, I do think it kind of sucks that it's so taboo because I feel like it should be talked about so much more. And it should be talked about more than just with weight.
Yeah.
Of course, weight is a big predictor of heart disease and diabetes and all sorts of things that do make you live a shorter life.
Yeah.
So that's why weight is talked about so much. But yeah, I do in general just like I want to be 80 and not be immobile, you know? And that just sounds terrible to me.
No, that actually is perfect for this first thing of like, look at what you want. You were seeing people in your life around you, because I feel like that's what really happened. You were seeing like our grandma, she like she has a really hard time walking. We've seen our mom, she has horrible back problems. We've seen like our brother had horrible health issues, and like I feel like you looked around and you said, I want health to be a top priority, and so you made it one.
Yeah.
And you like started aligning yourself with that. I don't know. I feel like that's cool.
Thank
It's like a perfect first example.
Thank you. Yeah. So I guess the question would just be like, okay, what is top priority? What's number one?
Yeah.
And not that other things, like, I'm not saying make this a top priority and then cut out anything else that doesn't align with it. But the first question is, what is your top priority? Is your top priority, have you been saying for forever, like, I want to lose the weight, or I want to get better at my skincare, or I want to
buy a house.
Yes, I want to be financially stable enough to buy a house. I want to go back to school. I want to get a degree. I want to
move farther in my career.
Yeah, I want
Anything.
or I even like relationship things, like I want to get married.
Yeah.
I want to have kids.
children. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's just like, what is the number one priority for you? I think would be for me. Do you have one? I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'm just curious.
I mean, it's really got to be family right now for me, of like, I really want to become a mom. And so that's like pretty much at my forefront of all time. So I'm making sure that like Mason and I are having the talks that we need to have. Mason and I are like looking at homes that will, like literally everything I'm doing right now is like in preparation of being a mom kind of thing. Like the homes we're looking at, I said like, there's things that I have to have because I will plan on raising a kid here for 3, 4, 5 years before we actually do buy a home. So yeah, I think that my top priority is being a mom and making sure that I'm like set up as much as I can be in my current life for that.
Yeah. I could totally see that. And then I also think maybe even more than just being a mom you said being set up. It sounds like very tangible things that you're talking about being set up, but I feel like even set up like mentally and emotionally.
Yes. I guess like instead of just being a mom, but like being a very like a good mom. Yeah. I want to make sure that whenever I'm bringing a kid in, that like Mason and I have the hard discussions of like, well, what are we going to do in 3 years whenever, like, if there was money problems, or like, how are we going to parent? And how, like, I want to make sure we're having the discussions now to prep me for whenever this actually does happen.
Yeah. And I think even yesterday when we were at brunch, we were talking a little bit about this with one of our friends who has a kid, and they were saying how prepping yourself with, like, because we all have mental health things that we go through, and how it only, like, a lot of it can just get worse when you have a kid. And so I feel like you've even done a lot of like mental health work of figuring out kind of how to stabilize yourself so that you don't kind of project that on kids, or like bring that, I mean, I'm sure,
or like ruin my relationship because I'm too bogged down.
And I'm sure there's no, every parent is going to do that at some point.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, I feel like you've been, sorry to put you on the spot, but
no,
yeah,
I liked
was just
it.
curious.
It gave me a moment to think of like, what am I prioritizing right now? What is my top life priority?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like for that one, like, I'll talk to Mason about it all the time to make sure that we're still on the same page about things. Because I'm like, listen, this is my top priority. Is it still yours? Like, or is there something else that is instead, like, and then we need to figure that out. We need to talk about that. I don't know. So what's yours? Well, health.
Yeah, I would probably put health, like, and specifically for me, it is staying in good health metrics, like not just weight, but also things like my heart rate and my blood pressure. Yeah, which I get those taken every time I donate blood, so that's a really nice free way to check that out. But and iron levels, you know, like there are a lot of things like that, just metrics that I can check. But also just setting up habits, like, for instance, protein intake is like a really big topic now.
Yeah.
I feel like veggies don't get the same light that protein gets because everybody talks about protein, but nobody talks about veggies.
Yeah.
But regardless, as you get older, you are more likely to lose muscle, and that's kind of what can make a lot of people immobile is they've got tiny little itty bitty legs with no muscles.
Which I remember not knowing that until you told me one time, because we were talking about like what nutrients do I need to have, because you're like a huge influence in my life for health things. Like I can go to you, and I remember you telling me that like that's why a lot of older people have the really, really tiny legs and then maybe like more round up top, and it's because they didn't like you don't have enough protein, and so it just muscle just started leaving their body. And I was like, what?
And your legs are where you have huge muscles in your legs.
And you carry your whole body in your legs.
Yes, exactly. Whereas like you can store fat in your legs too, but like you store a lot of fat really easily, like in your gut and like in your belly and that sort of thing.
Right.
But when you start your muscle loss, which honestly, I'm 29 going on 30, women especially everybody starts losing muscle in their 30s. And it just keeps going. So that's why for me it's really important to figure out, okay, what nutrition, protein specifically, is supporting me toward not having tiny little itty bitty legs when I'm older. And then even though like sometimes it's like, oh, you don't want I feel like for women a lot of the time there's like those comments like thunder thighs or things like that, like really old ideas like that. I feel like it is good because it seems like modern media is a little bit more supportive of like having built legs and that sort of thing. Yeah. But it used to just be really skinny, you know. But anyway, so
I know
specifically like functional movement and functional nutrition that can support, like, as I'm losing muscle, still support those things.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to lose muscle. You just have to be intentional about it. But yeah, so I would say that's my number one. And then, so after you pick your, like, priority or whatever, the second thing that I would say to ask yourself is, like, do I know anyone who has accomplished this thing or is even just one step ahead of me on this thing?
Yeah. So, I think like whenever I think of my top priority of, you know, creating a happy and loving family, I really have found that I am starting to surround myself with people who have families and like who are moms or are like young dads or whatever. Like I feel like I've gotten even closer to Abby, for example, who's my sister-in-law. I've been close with her literally since we met when Mason and I started dating, which is funny because we actually knew each other before that. But like we've been super, super close this whole time. But as I have started like really gearing up and like really preparing myself, I'm feeling even closer to her. And like, I really watch her as a mom and I really like listen to her feedback as a mom and just, and like even like about her marriage, like we'll talk about that because like I know that's it's so different than how me and Mason's marriage is. So we don't have a kid right now. So and like Courtney at book club, like I was asking her all about her baby, and like we saw one of our friends Ben, he has a baby, and I was asking him all about his baby. So like I'm just finding myself moving closer in the direction of people who live the same life that I want to live.
Well, and I think even more than that, it's because I think that we're naturally attracted to people that are similar to us or similar to our ones. But the thing we're less intentional about sometimes is like there is a difference between you wanting to be a mom and you wanting to be the patient, present mom that you're talking about, very self-aware mom that you are striving to be. And I feel like Abby is like does have parenting styles that like you really would like to emulate as a mom probably. But just in general, like we can sometimes become attracted to people that hold part of like what we're thinking. But then if you're just making friends with young parents, probably some of them are not going to have techniques that necessarily you want to emulate. And that's just because everybody differs on how they parent. Of course. That's also a taboo topic. both of our topics are very taboo. But
it isn't.
I think
honestly.
I think just anytime you talk about what you want, it can become taboo. Money is the same thing. Like if you really want to start building your wealth, that I mean that is also very controversial for whatever reason people
you can't talk about money.
You like want to have enough money, but then you don't want, like people have this weird narrative in their head that like having a lot of money is actually like now they're entitled and that sort of thing. And Anyway, so so just thinking about, okay, are there people in your life, because it could be that maybe you are like the first person in your life to do this thing, like become a mom or something like that. Maybe then it would be time for you to start seeking out other young moms that maybe didn't naturally fall into your circle, you know?
Right.
Because like Abby wouldn't have naturally fallen into your circle if you hadn't married into the family, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, and even like Ben and Courtney and, you know, and so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, are these people in your life? And if not, maybe they should be, or if they're in your life in a very limited way, maybe they should become a little bit more of your everyday life.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that this is a good time where you can obviously look at what you want, and then you can look at who you do have in that circle with you, who you do feel like is really close to you, and ask yourself, like, are they going to support these goals of mine? Is it reachable with them in my life?
Yeah.
Or like, are they holding me back? Like, are you going to be able to reach that with this person with you? And then that's kind of where you have to make that hard decision of, do they stay in my close-knit circle?
Yeah.
Or
and in my everyday, like you could still hang out with them, but like,
of course, no one needs to be cut off.
Yeah. Is this someone that you really want to be engaging with regularly, consistently, daily?
Yeah.
You know,
I would say, like, even for me, when I'm thinking about it, and like I said at the beginning of the episode, I don't feel like I have a huge circle anyway, but I do have people in my mind that I'm like, yeah, when I hang out with these people, all we do is drink. Or when I hang out with these people, we have to go out. Or whenever I am with these people, like, I feel very anxious. Like, so those are the people who I'm like, okay, I should probably kind of shift some things around.
Yeah.
And not cut anybody off, not like tell people like, hey, you don't support my values anymore, like you're out of here. Like, it's not a situation like that. It's more of just doing it for myself, of moving some people around and moving some time spent around to figure out what aligns with my goals.
Yeah, and again, it's not a blame game at all. It's not like, oh, they're making me drink more than I want. I'm in total control of how much I drink.
Yep.
But when I hang out with certain groups of people that the majority of the people drink every Sunday, let's say, versus when I hang out with a group of people who
go to the front, like a family market on a Sunday.
Right, exactly.
Those are very different people.
Yeah, exactly. And they could be different people at different times in their lives, too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm not saying that those people are always that way or anything like that.
No, growth is always happening. Your goals are always changing.
Yeah. So asking yourself that. I think the other good question to see, like, if you have these people in your life that are going your direction, is asking yourself, is there someone that, I'm using the mom example because that's easy, but is there someone in my life that I could easily ask, besides Google, not Google, someone that I would very quickly think to ask, oh, what do you think about this parenting thing? Or have you ever heard of this toy? Or have you ever heard of this thing? Or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't use.
How should I put my baby to sleep?
Exactly. Yeah. I should have just used my own example. Like, for me, like, honestly, I have been having questions recently where like I said, the creatine thing earlier, I have been like,
should I be taking that?
Yeah. Do people take creatine? Do people... I think supplements are a big one.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about collagen, colostrum, creatine, like all sorts of different supplements.
Yes.
And so I'm constantly wondering. And my supplements are pretty minimal, but I just sometimes wonder about it. But I realized recently, I was like, I don't really have that accountability group that I had. If I had even one thought about that, I would just really quickly, like, post it in our little group and probably have like 3 or 4 responses or even more at once. But then I just realized that I don't really have anybody besides like Google that I would think to ask that immediately, you know? And so I was like, I need to start being a little bit more intentional about getting some of this like back in my life.
Yeah.
If anybody out there takes creatine and wants to tell me about it,
let us know.
I don't know why. I'm just like, that's another like
I've
protein
had that
thing,
thought before. I really have. Like, am I supposed to be taking this or like?
But if you don't have anybody, then maybe that's like your trigger to be like, oh, maybe I should. And it could be anything. We're talking about like mom and health, but like it could even be like, oh, I just had a thought, and like not to toot our own horns, but we didn't know anybody that had started a podcast before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
So we did not have anybody that we could have asked like some of these questions. But if you are someone who is like, I really want to start a podcast for whatever reason, then it would be a lot easier to start that.
And get like real life examples.
Yes,
and,
if you knew someone who already had a podcast, like we'd easily be able to be like, oh yeah, we had some technical difficulties on our last book club episode. Let me tell you, learn from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, is there somebody just a step ahead of you that you could ask questions from? Like they could, because having them in your circle is most likely going to move you forward on whatever that big top priority is for you.
Yeah.
And having a lot of people in your circle that their priority is not that, or even is opposite of that, like in conflict with that, is gonna hold you back. Probably.
Completely. Absolutely. I feel like that kind of like wraps up how we are telling our listeners to just like reflect on your life, reflect on who you have with you. And now you might be asking us like, okay, well, what do I do if I don't have anyone in my life who I can ask these creating questions to? Or like, what if I am ready to start a family, but none of my close people have done that before? That's what our next episode's going to be about. So we're going to be talking about kind of how you find these people, how you can make these friendships, how you can continue making a circle that aligns with who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah. I feel like I can already think of some fun tips.
Me too. I'm really excited for that as well. Well, yeah. Did you kind of feel like you had anything else to add to this topic?
No, I think that kind of concludes us. I hope that you guys liked this one, even though if you are one of our friends and you read the title and you're like, am I holding you back? What?
No.
That's not what we're saying. But thank you for giving it a chance. And if you have a friend that could benefit from this, please share it with them.
Yes.
Don't send it to them and be like, you're holding me back. We're not friends anymore.
Right. But you could send it to them and say something like, hey, I've been really trying to get into this area of life. Like, do you want to join me?
Yeah,
like, can you help me reach those goals? Or like, I don't know.
Yes.
You could absolutely do something like that.
Yes.
Accountability is everything.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Talking more about friends.
Yep.
How to make them.
Yep. Well, thanks for tuning into this one, guys. And remember, just take a little second, reflect on who you got in your circle, and then join us next week for how to get new people in that circle. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We love ya, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.